Turretin on the fifth question in his section on the One and Triune God of his Institutes. Fifth question is, can the divine attributes be really distinguished from the divine essence? We deny against the Socinians. What are the divine attributes? To understand the question, certain things must be premised concerning the divine attributes. The divine attributes are the essential properties by which he makes himself known to us who are weak, and those by which he is distinguished from creatures. Or they are those which are attributed to him according to the measure of our conception, in order to explain his nature. Attributes are not ascribed to God properly as something superadded to his essence, something accidental to the subject, making it perfect and really distinct from himself, but improperly and transumptively, inasmuch as they indicate perfections essential to the divine nature, conceived by us as properties. Although the several attributes represent the most fertile and simple nature of God, yet they can represent it only inadequately, i.e., not according to its total relation, but now under this perfection, then under another. For what we cannot take in by one adequate conception as being finite, we divide into various inadequate conceptions, so as to obtain some knowledge of him, which is not a proof of error in the intellect, but only of imperfection. Thus, omnipotence is the divine essence itself, apprehended as free from every obstacle in acting. Eternity is the essence of God, as without limit in duration, and so of the rest. These inadequate conceptions of the essence of God are presented to us by a precisive abstraction, or by a simple and negative precision, as I may think of goodness by not thinking of power, but not by an exclusive or privative precision, as, for example, I may assert him to be omnipotent who is neither merciful nor just. Statement of the question. The question concerning the divine attributes as distinct from the divine essence is agitated with us by the Socinians, who, the more easily to prove that the Holy Spirit is not God or a divine person, although he may be called a virtue of God, maintain that the attributes of God are really distinct from his essence. The Orthodox teach that they are really the same with his essence, but are to be distinguished from it virtually and immanently. Those things are said to differ really, which are distinguished as things diverse according to essence, whether they agree with the subject or not. But to be distinguished virtually is nothing else than either by virtue to contain distinct effects, or to have unitedly in themselves what are distinct in others, or to have an immanent virtue, which can be the principle of diverse actions. Its foundation cannot be intrinsic but extrinsic, not on the part of the principle or subject, but in relation to the end and object, on account of the diversity of operations and effects arising out of the properties, and according to which diverse formal conceptions of them are formed. The attributes of God cannot really differ from his essence or from one another, as one thing from another, because God is most simple and perfect. Now, a real distinction presupposes things diverse in essence, which the highest simplicity rejects. Things really diverse can become one only by aggregation, which is opposed to absolute perfection. Again, if they differed really, the essence would be made perfect by something really distinct from itself, and so could not be in itself most perfect. Third, it would follow that God is not therefore immutable, because he would have in himself passive potency, the root of mutability, by which the attributes might either be elicited from the essence or added to it. But since God is the first and independent being, which is whatever can be, nothing can be added to or taken away from him. Yet that the attributes of God differ both from his essence and mutually from one another is evident from the diversity of conceptions. For where there is ground for founding distinct formal conceptions of anything, although one and simple in itself considered, there we must necessarily grant virtual and immanent distinction. Since therefore in the most simple divine essence there is ground for forming diverse formal conceptions concerning the divine perfections, which is evident from their distinct definition and explanation, it is best to say that these attributes give rise to such conceptions are virtually to be distinguished both from the essence and from each other. Although the attributes are essentially and intrinsically one in God, yet they may properly be said to be distinguished both intellectually as to the diverse formal conception and objectively and effectively as to the various external objects and effects. Hence, it is evident that this distinction is neither simply real between things and things, nor formal, which is only in our manner of conception, but immanent, which although it does not hold itself on the part of the thing as between thing and thing, yet has a foundation in the thing on account of the diversity of objects and effects. Sources of explanation. Although our formal conceptions of the essence and properties of God may be diverse, yet they cannot be called false. For their answer to them, as many objective conceptions, actually indivisible indeed in God on account of his most perfect simplicity, but yet virtually and immanently distinct. Attributes may be mutually predicated of each other in an identical sense, inasmuch as they may be considered as having unity and identity with each other, as when I say that the divine intellect is the same thing with his will, or his justice is the same thing with his mercy. However, this is not the case in the formal sense, because they are formally distinguished in our conceptions and by their objects. So I cannot say justice is mercy, because the formal conception of justice differs from the formal conception of mercy. He who conceives what is actually and really one and simple in God, as actually and really diverse, conceives what is false. But he who conceives that which is actually one in itself, as more than one virtually and extrinsically or objectively, does not conceive what is false. Rather, he conceives the thing imperfectly and inadequately on account of the weakness of the human intellect and the immanence and perfection of the divine nature. The divine attributes may be regarded either absolutely and subjectively in themselves and on the part of God, or relatively as to their effects towards creatures, or on the part of the object. I confess that in the latter way, punitive justice and sparing mercy are opposed, but not in the former, concerning which we treat. The properties are many on the part of the object and the end, or of the operations and effects, but not on the part of the subject or principle, which is one and perfectly simple. Where there is priority and posteriority as to absolute and real being, there is a real difference, but not where there is only priority and posteriority as to known and intelligible being, which is the case in God and his attributes. The definition of a thing in itself differs from our conceptions of that thing. The former, not the latter, argues a real distinction. Now the definitions of the divine properties are rather of our conceptions, conceiving God under this or that relation, than of the thing itself, which is one and most simple.